Platinum is one of the most treasured games in all of Pokemon, especially to me. It was my first and favorite game, and what better way to kick off my YouTube career than with this run. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mikey, and welcome to the first ever Brolocke. A Brolocke is a hardcore Nuzlocke with a little bit of a twist. There are these 3 additional rules to make the challenge more difficult. So essentially, this is a single player Soul Link because I have no friends. But nevertheless, these rules should increase the difficulty of this challenge greatly, as I have less freedom when choosing my team of 6. I begin my adventure as everyone does before coming across the most important part of any playthrough, the starter selection. And while I am a die-hard Torterra fan, Chimchar is definitely the desired pick. Sinnoh is infamous for its weak fire type selection, and having a guaranteed fire type is definitely beneficial. I spam click for a little bit before running into this weird emo dude at the lake. Cyrus is my name, remember it. I just know this dude is terrified of a job application. But I'm sure his talk of world domination is all nonsense, so I carry on to Rowan's lab. I name my Chimchar Aaron to represent my lack of freedom in this challenge, and Rowan gives me a very useful TM outside of his lab. Dawn gives me a little tour of the town, but I end up buying some Pokeballs before she even teaches me how to catch Pokemon. Sorry Dawn, you are not needed. I run straight to Lake Verity and run into my first encounter, Armin the Starly. Aaron now has his bro, and they're going to be an absolute powerhouse in this run. There's no time to waste as I run into my next encounter, going the Kricketot. Well, it was either that or Bidoof, so no damage done. I then get my encounter for Route 202, a Bidoof! So I have a duo of Kricketot and Bidoof, which honestly is fantastic. It's not like I have to use the duos, so it's better to get the bad Pokemon in the same, okay, or not, that's completely fine too. I reach Jubilife City, and of course Dawn rubs it in that I didn't catch Bidoof before I can go on about my life. I take a hard left from the city to get the old rod from a fisherman and fish at a nearby body of water. And just look at how long it takes for me to get my encounter, man. Ridiculous. I eventually get Killua the Magikarp, making for a Kricketot and Magikarp duo for getting the award for most useless. Not to mention, I have to suffer with a Kricketune as my future Gyarados' bro, which is going to be really detrimental. That missed Bidoof encounter is going to haunt me for the rest of this run. Anyway, I promptly make my way up to Route 204 to find my next encounter, Nagi the Shinx. It's not the Badoo I wanted, but I'll certainly take it. Right above Route 204 is the Ravage Path where I capture Rayo the Psyduck, rounding out a full team of 6. I head back down and get challenged by my rival Izana on Route 203, but at this point he's an absolute pushover and gets stomped on. On the same route, I encounter Senku the Abra, who I catch easily with a taunt from Aaron to disallow its teleports. Moving swiftly onward, I encounter Senku's muscly friend Taiju in the form of Geodude at Orberg Gate. This gives me 2 bros who will unfortunately never fully evolve, because their evolutions only come from trading. I get to the first gym entrance, and Izana is puppy guarding the entrance like an absolute loser, so now I have to go hunt down the leader Rourke. But before I do that, I go north to Route 207 where I find Alex the Machop. In the Orberg mine, I find a Zubat, however this happens.
Oh! No.
But hey, at least Rayo leveled up. Rourke tries to flex on me with some lame move before running away, and we're just about ready for the gym. But first, I have to level up my Pokemon and get some evolutions. Armin evolves into Staravia, and Aaron evolves into Monferno. And with these evolutions, I am set and ready for Rourke. I start with Rayo against his Geodude, and he is able to pick up an easy kill with a singular water gun. Onix suffers the same fate, and Rourke is left with his Demoness Cranidos. This thing can hit hard, and with a flinching move like Headbutt, I'm a little bit nervous. I switch into Nagi for an Intimidate drop before switching to Armin for the exact same purpose. Finally, I switch into Aaron, who's able to comfortably take out the nerf Cranidos with a pair of Mach Punches. After the fight, Rourke yaps to me about his loss, so I just take his badge and run away. But before I do anything else, I level up my other team members, getting Gon to evolve into Kricketune. I'm sure that's going to make a huge difference. I sprint back to Jubilife City where Rowan and Dawn are talking to some fellas with blue bowl cuts, and Rowan is giving them the absolute business with the insults. Dawn and I handle the grunts, and I go on my merry way. I arrive in the beautiful Floroma town where I rob them of their berries and have to face Team Galactic once more. But first, outside the Valley Windworks, I catch Olivier the Shellos. Not Buizel, but decent regardless. Next up, I evolve Nagi into Luxio and Senku into Kadabra, 2 very powerful level ups for my team. I then go into battle against Lieutenant Mars, the first hard fight of this game. I lead with Nagi and immediately take her Zubat out with a singular spark. Perugly comes out next, so I switch to Armin for an Intimidate drop. I swap into Taiju next, who eats a feint attack only to get hit with a crit right after. The Magnitude in return does decent damage to activate Perugly's Oran Berry, and the lack of a further crit lets Taiju get off another huge chunk of damage. One final magnitude knocks out the cat, and I save this random scientist dude. I head north from the Valley Windworks to Route 205 where I find Light the Buizel. I keep heading north to get to Eterna Forest, and as soon as I get inside, this lady forces me to go along with her. Hopefully going along with her won't have any consequences. The first thing I encounter in the forest is 2 Baniris, so I get double the chance to catch them.
No way. Please. Oh my god.
I mean, come on. That Baniri was kicking out like prime John Cena. Okay, whatever. Fortunately, I am able to leave the forest unscathed, and I am officially at Eterna City. Izana and I stumble upon the emo dude again, and who even knows what he's talking about at this point. A quick trip east to Route 206 lets me find Light's bro, El the Chingling. A Bronzor and Mount Coronet escapes my clutches, and... Oh, what? Tell them what really happened? Yeah, so, I might have ran out of Pokeballs trying to catch that Bronzor. Absolute rookie mistake. I promise I won't do it again. Shortly after I return to the city, this random blonde lady tries to rizz me up, but I tell her that I have a girlfriend and she goes away. I find myself right outside the gym afterwards, and the leader Gardenia is standing right outside. She tells me not to disappoint her, and trust me, I don't plan to. In my final preparations for the gym, I evolve Kilwen to Gyarados, and it's time to surpass her expectations. She leads with a Turtwig, so I send out Aaron, and I leer as Turtwig sets up Reflect. It then sets up the Sun, which is a fatal mistake as it boosts the power of my Fire-type moves, so I stall out the remaining Reflect turns before knocking out Turtwig on the last one. This sends in Cherim with no Reflect into my Sun-boosted Aaron, and it doesn't take a genius to know how that ended. Last out is Gardenia's Roserade, and her Magical Leaf hits kinda hard. Unfortunately, the Sun is out, so my Flame Wheel doesn't kill, and Aaron is now in crit range. I switch into Armin, who is just bulky enough to avoid crit range, and he's able to clean up the fight. After collecting the second badge, my next hurdle is Galactic's Jupiter. I take out Zubat with a confusion from Senku before switching to Armin for an Intimidate drop on Skuntank. Swapping out once more to Killua guarantees another Intimidate drop, and finally switching to Taiju allows for him to easily take out Skuntank barring any crits, even healing his poison with a held Pecha Berry. After saving even more people from these fools, that blonde lady gives me one of her eggs? I don't even know if I can show that on YouTube! I hatch the egg to get Kurapika the Togepi for my Eterna City encounter. I then get the Explorer's Kit from this old man in the house, and guys, I'm gonna be completely honest, this was absolute torture. A fossil is an uncommon drop in the underground, and it legitimately took me hours to find one. And that was before I even realized that I was recording the wrong screen, so I didn't even get the footage of getting the fossil, so that was just the cherry on top. But before I even found this fossil, I gave up for a bit to progress, evolving Taiju into Graveler in the process. Route 206 provides me Leorio the Ponyta, and now I am all set for Operation Borrow. With a little bit of luck and avoiding Dragon Rage KOs, I capture Borrow the Gibble in the Wayward Cave. So now I have no choice but to get the fossil so that I can be Borrow's bro. But again, the suffering was just too much, so I eventually got bored and decided to progress. And this was my worst mistake ever. Taiju and Senku, while I love them dearly, are the first bros to leave me on my journey. Rest in peace, you two. Thank you for everything. I mean, yeah, it's sad, but not even that could ruin me finally finding my fossil. I restore the fossil to get Shieldon. And its name? Well, it has no name. Borrow has no bros, and I think Garchomp can do all the work by itself. Sorry, Shieldon. Maybe next time. After a not-so-close call against another Geodude, I backtrack quickly to the old chateau where I get Gojo the Ghastly. I then move on and find the weird spaceman again, this time in Mount Coronet. Time. Space. I would definitely fall asleep in this guy's lecture, bro. On Route 208, I capture Gojo's bro Geto the Roselia and reach Hearthome City. My first stop is to meet Bibi? Bebe? I got no idea, man. But regardless, she gives me an Eevee, so she's cool, and I name the Eevee Smiley. Next up, I find my mom at the contest hall, and Fantina, the gym leader, is chilling just beside her. There's nothing else to do now before facing Fantina, except almost losing Killua to some confusion shenanigans, so I prepare for the fight. In the midst of preparation, I evolve Borrow into Gabite, Light into Floatzel, Kurapika into Togetic, and Gojo into Haunter. But after that, I begin the fight against Fantina. Aaron leads against Duskull, and 2 Flame Wheels take it out as Duskull uses Future Sight. Fighting type Aaron definitely doesn't want to take this Future Sight, so a switch out to Gon allows it to tank the incoming Haunter's hit and the Future Sight very well. A Shadow Claw does minimal damage, and I put Haunter to sleep with Sing. This guarantees a free switch to Light, who takes out Haunter with Crunch. A Confuse Ray from the incoming Miss Magius allows it to dodge a Crunch from Light, so I switch to Armin on a Magical Leaf. A Wing Attack does decent damage, but I have to switch once more to avoid risking a critical hit. Killua is always the answer here, and 1 bite from him secures me the victory. I get yet another badge and move onward, where Izana wants to fight me again. Shieldon leads against Staravia, and while an Endeavor is scary, we're able to get the KO without too much trouble. I switch into Nagi against Prinplup, and Bubble Beam does a concerning amount of damage. Barrow comes in on the next turn to do over half with Dragon Rage, but I have to switch out once again. I switch to Rayo and disable Bubble Beam in order to bring back in someone else, but shockingly, Izana switches to Roselia, and I land a super effective confusion with Rayo. I switch to Armin to comfortably take out Roselia, and Prinplup falls in quick succession. Last out is Ponyta, and Armin wraps up the fight with 2 wing attacks and a quick attack. I get a bunch of encounters before anything of significance happens, so let me run through them all. Angry the Zubat on Route 209, Sasuke the Duskull at the Lost Tower, Naruto the Noctowl on Route 210, and Tanjiro the Meryl on Route 215. After arriving at Veilstone City, I decided to do a bit of training. I evolve L into Chimecho, and I also evolve Angry into Golbat. I then head south to Route 214 to catch Nezuko the Houndour. In the process of preparing to fight the 4th gym leader Maylene, I get a bunch of evolutions, and most of these are going to be key for the rest of the run. But after these evolutions, the fight against Maylene is on. I lead with Naruto against Meditite, and after getting faked out, we both miss our attacks. This is inconsequential as right after I KO with Air Slash. Machoke is out next, but knowing I'm safe given Naruto's good defense, I land an Air Slash, which actually crits and gets the job done even faster. Her final Pokemon is the biggest problem, and it's Lucario. Naruto is still decently healthy, so I stay in to eat a Drain Punch and set up Reflect. With Reflect up, there's absolutely nothing Lucario can do against Killua, and a few Dragon Rages give us our 4th gym badge. Dawn and I once again wreck some grunts so we can find the HM for Fly, making transportation much easier. With this added mobility, I fly back to Twin Leaf Town and fish to pick up Shinra the Goldeen. I enter the Valor Lakefront, and the past comes back to haunt me because my encounter is Bibarel. It sucks, but I capture it and begrudgingly name it Arthur. Before we get to Pastoria City, we capture Goku the Wingull. After evolving Rayo into Golduck, I march up to the gym, and Izana sprints in to face me, but I'm ready because I've played this game before. I lead with Bastiodon against his Staravia, which continues to be annoying with Endeavor, but it's still an easy KO. Prinplup is up next, but now that Nagi's fully evolved, it tears it to shreds with a single spark. Nezuko comes in to finish off Roselia, and Rayo takes out Ponyta for my cleanest victory yet over Izana. He runs off, so I take to Route 212 and capture Vegeta the Quagsire. Lots and lots and lots of water types, guys. I'm not even gonna bother showing you guys the Safari Zone encounter with Yanma because, as always, it got away immediately. Before I fight Wake, I take the opportunity to evenly level my team, collecting a surplus of evolutions in the process. The most notable of which are Armin into Staraptor, Aaron into Infernape, and Angry into Crobat. After that's done, it's time to brawl with Crasher Wake. My unorthodox team leads Nagi into Gyarados, who picks up a quick KO with Spark. The ground-type Quagsire predictably comes out next, but Geto was born to handle this. A Giga Drain quickly erases Quagsire, and Wake is down to just Floatzel. I know an Ice Fang is coming, so switching to Nagi gives an Intimidate drop to weaken the attack. Switching once more to Vegeta activates Water Absorb on the incoming Brine, making it useless. All Floatzel can do now is Crunch and Ice Fang, which are both weakened by Intimidate, so I land a Yawn to put Floatzel to sleep. From there, it's as simple as spamming Earthquake until the battle is won. Before I can even do anything after my victory, Izana interrupts me and an explosion goes off in the Safari. I have to endlessly chase this grunt around until he's forced to fight me, and I can see why he didn't want to fight. After we deal with that, the blonde lady tries to Riz me again, and Izana pops up and asks if she's my sister. I don't even want to know what goes on in the Izana household. But the lady gives me the secret sauce to finally get past the stupid Psyducks on Route 210, so I immediately go there and do that. Rayo watches on in disappointment as his stupid brethren dissipate. The lady tries to Riz me again, but it turns out she only wants me to deliver something to her grandma. Wow, meeting your grandma already? At least take me out to dinner first. There's no new encounter here past the Psyduck since it's still Route 210, but I beat an old man in his retirement battle. Sorry I had to end this way, Gramps. After finding the blonde lady's grandma, I go into the ruins only to be joined by grandma and the weird space dude again. He's still yapping about who knows what, and he has the audacity to challenge me. Nagi goes absolutely sicko mode on his bum team, so he scampers off with his tail between his legs. From there, I get access to surf and go over to Candelave City, where none other than Izana is waiting for me by the bridge. You all know the drill by now. Staraptor goes down to Nagi, Rapidash to Rayo, Roserade to Armin, Heracross to Aaron, and lastly Empoleon to Olivier. The glorious 720p graphics take me to Iron Island, where I find my encounter Alphonse the Onyx. Unfortunately, after meeting up with Riley, the unthinkable happens to my poor Olivier. This sucks pretty bad, but fortunately it wasn't one of my premier duos. At the end of the cave, Riley gives me an egg who will hatch into Alphonse's bro, Edward. Since I now have access to surf, I visit Fuego Ironworks and pick up Ace the Magmar. I return to Candelave and the egg hatches into Edward the Riolu, who will be a huge asset for this upcoming gym. Before fighting the 6th gym, I evolve Smiley into Umbreon and Edward into Lucario. Without further ado, now it's time to tango with Byron. Byron is traditionally the easiest gym leader of the bunch, and this fight is evidence as to why. Aaron took Magneton into the red with a Flame Wheel, sparking a heal from the leader. 2 more Flame Wheels cleaned it up, and out next was Steelix. Goku swaps in on a Sandstorm, and a single Surf packs up the Steel Snake. Last but not least is Bastiodon, but Edward was born for this moment. He turns into Gojo for a hot minute because Aurasphere wipes Bastiodon off the planet to get me badge number 6. Sorry Byron, maybe you'll end a Nuzlocke one day. We meet with Rowan, Izana, and Dawn afterward, and a massive explosion sends them into a scramble. Of course, me, the child, has to clean up the mess at Lake Valor. I pull up and it's looking like a sushi chef's dream. This other goober with blue hair is behind it, and I have to fight him. Nagi demolishes his Golbat, but his Toxicroak is a threat. Armin takes 2 shots to knock it out, but he gets really low on HP in the process. Thankfully, his last Pokemon is a remarkably harmless Bronzor, and Aaron cleans it up with little problem. I then go to Lake Verity to save Dawn and Rowan because they can't hold it down, and I have to fight Mars again. Golbat and Bronzor both get cooked by Nagi, and after setting up the rain and putting Perugly to sleep, Goku goes Super Saiyan on the poor kitty. I get some lore dumped on me, and now I have to go babysit Izana. On the way, I pass through Route 216 and capture Luffy the Snover, as well as Joseph the Swinub on Route 217. Then at Acuity Lakefront, Izana taunts me because he's already beaten the 7th gym leader, so I go ahead and capture Caesar the Snorunt to make myself feel better. Now there's nothing between me and the 7th gym leader, so I go ahead and fight her. All I have to say here is Aaron goes crazy. Just watch. After that ordeal is over, I head back to Lake Acuity and find Izana, who just got embarrassed by Jupiter's weak team. He's really torn up about what happened, but I don't care because I have a Sneasel to catch. As all Sneasels do, it gives me a little bit of trouble, but I eventually capture it and name it Denji. Jupiter mentions something about Galactic HQ, so I head back to Veilstone and end up at the HQ. The blue hair guy is giving a speech, and I can't lie, he's got a little bit of aura. I mean, just look at him. He's got all the grunts around him. I mean, it's kind of cool, I'll give him that. But after his speech, I find myself in his room, and now I have to fight him. Aaron gets the easy KO on his Sneasel, and we switch out to Nagi to go against his Crobat. Nagi ends up having a little bit of confusion trouble, but he ends up getting the knockout in the end. Last out is his Honchkrow, and this thing is an absolute monster. I switch to Bastiodon, who tanks some hits, but in the end, Honchkrow is at 2/3 HP by the time we have to swap out. Rayo swaps in and immediately gets hit hard, so we have to go into Armin for an Intimidate drop. A crit here would be detrimental, but we get lucky and Armin gets off a return. And just when it looks like we're out of the woods, Honchkrow gets blessed with a full restore, and he's back to half after another return. Nagi then switches in to get off another Intimidate and tanks a Feint Attack. And thankfully, because I attacked Honchkrow with Rock Tombs earlier with Bastiodon, I can safely go for Spark to clean up the close fight. We have to fight that other blue hair guy immediately after, but his team is the exact same as earlier, so there's no need to show the massacre again. I then free the Lake Trio, and coming up next is one of the hardest parts of the game, the Spear Pillar. I only have one thing to do in preparation, and that's evolving Borrow into Garchomp, and he is ready to eat. And because this game is so dumb, I have to bring both Shinra and Arthur to Spear Pillar because I need their HMs. I may be about to get whooped. The first fight of significance is against both Mars and Jupiter with Izana. This battle is absolutely terrifying because Izana's AI is horrible, and he leads with a Munchlax. I start with Nezuko against the Bronzors and take out the first one with a flamethrower. Skuntank comes out next, and Nezuko takes down the other Bronzor with another flamethrower. And if you look closely, you'll see Nezuko is already pre-damaged, and I forgot to heal before the fight because I am a fool.
Oh my goodness. Nice good job.
Yeah, that was an absolute disaster. Perugly comes in next, and I send out Baro to clean up with Earthquake. He gets hit hard, so Bastiodon comes out to wall the rest of the fight and lets Staraptor clean up the rest. A bunch of crazy stuff happens with these two massive legendaries, and eventually a hole to hell opens up. I have to return back to the Poke Center to fix up my team before I enter, but once I do, it's time for the final fight against the man with blue hair. Baro leads against his Houndoom, and it gets vanquished with an Earthquake. I swap Bastiodon into Weavile and unfortunately get frozen, but it tanks hits well enough that we can take it out with no trouble. Gyarados is out next, and because I don't know its moves, I absolutely blunder, sending in Nagi on an Earthquake. It does exactly half, and now because I don't have a better move, I have to risk poor Nagi's life. Bang! Nagi lives and ends Gyarados, and next out is the pesky Honchkrow. Baro takes far more damage than I anticipated, so I send in Shinra. Shinra and Arthur were never meant to be on this team, so I'm okay with sacking them here. Nagi comes back out for an Intimidate before a swap to Rayo is enough to take out Honchkrow. Last out is Crobat, and Bastiodon hard counters it, letting me end the battle with no risk. Blue Hair Man takes off, and now I have to face Giratina. Blue Hair Man returns once more, just to yap, and eventually I'm finally free and allowed to breathe fresh air again. After this whole ordeal, the last thing on my agenda is the 8th gym, so I prepare by evolving Caesar into Frostlass, Joseph into Piloswine, and Ghetto into Roserade. On the way over to Sunny Shore City, I pick up Power the Tentacool and Polnareff the Sudowoodo. It's final gym battle time, so I challenge Volkner. I wish this battle was interesting, but I have a Garchomp, he has a team full of electric types. You can put 2 and 2 together. And trust me, he's not done with the team wipes just yet. I catch Kakyoin the Remoraid at Sunny Shore City, and then backtrack for my Route 222 encounter in hopes of getting Magnemite. Of course, it was Electabuzz instead. I name him Ichigo and try to hide my hurt feelings. It's now league time, and the final preparations come in the form of evolving Denji into Weavile and Power into Tentacruel. But with that, I'm ready. But before I can enter, I'm stopped one last time by Izana, who wants one final battle. The leads are the same as always, but Nagi doesn't one-shot Staraptor, leaving it on a sliver. It U-turns out to Snorlax, and I stay in for a spark and get hit hard with Earthquake. Armin swaps in and hits hard with Return, but gets paralyzed by Body Slam as punishment. Snorlax rests up, so I take it upon myself to finish it off with a Return and Close Combat. Heracross is next, and while Armin is a perfect counter, I can't outspeed because of paralysis and am risking getting KO'd. Aaron comes in, taking a Close Combat and connecting with a Flare Blitz for the KO. Staraptor comes back out, but he's already low, so a Mach Punch from Aaron does the trick. Empoleon is fourth, but Baro knocks it out with a single Earthquake. Roserade and Rapidash are Izana's final 2 Pokemon, but neither can withstand Baro's Earthquake. Izana bids me farewell, and it's officially Elite 4 time. The team I am bringing consists of Denji the Weavile, Power the Tentacruel, Baro the Garchomp, Baro's bro Bastiodon, Aaron the Infernape, and Armin the Staraptor. First up is Aaron, and Bastiodon leads against Yanmega. Double team is all this thing can do, and I get lucky with Rock Slide landing on the first turn for the KO. Next out is Heracross, and Armin eats a close combat on the switch after an Intimidate and demolishes the bug with Brave Bird. Third out is Drapion, and I make a huge blunder of swapping in Baro on an Ice Fang, but he eats it up and follows with an Earthquake for the kill. Scizor is out next, and this is Aaron's ideal matchup, so he goes crazy. Last but not least is Vespiquen, but Bastiodon walls it for the methodical knockout and the W. Next is Bertha, and Baro is up again. Wishcash goes down to a single Earthquake, and a switch to Denji lets me take down Gliscor in one hit. Golem is out next, but not to fear, Baro is here! Earthquake hits, and now Baro also has Sandveil active. Rhyperior switches in, and fearing an Avalanche, I switch into Power to tank it and fire back with a Surf for the KO. The Powdon is last, and after doing some switching back and forth to get Intimidates off, Baro is the last one out to finish the battle with more Earthquakes. The Fire-type trainer Flint is third, and there's no explanation needed for what happened. Yeah, Baro is him. Last but not least is Lucian, the member I'm most worried about. Denji can take down Mr. Mime with a single Night Slash, but next is Gallade. This thing could use either Stone Edge or Drain Punch, so to play it safe I swap to Borrow. He eats the hit and takes out Gallade next turn with Earthquake, bringing out the levitating Bronzong. While Bronzong can dodge Earthquakes, it can't do much else, so I stay in with Borrow while Bronzong sets up Calm Minds, letting Borrow get it down super low with crunches. By the time Bronzong could do anything meaningful, it faints. Espeon is second to last, and a switch to Denji on a Psychic guarantees our safety. A Night Slash picks up the KO, and last is Alakazam. Focus Blast would absolutely destroy Denji, but he is very quick, and a final Night Slash outspeeds and we collect our victory. We now have the right to face the champion, so we step into her room, and I'm shocked to see the blonde lady who tried to Riz me. I thought that she'd give me the title for free, but sadly she's gonna make me earn it. She leads with Spiritomb, so I play it safe with Borrow. Borrow sets up Stealth Rocks and a Shadow Ball hits for decent damage. From there, it takes 2 Shadow Claws to knock out the Spiritomb, so it gets off an additional Dark Pulse, dealing some extra damage. She sends out her own Garchomp, and Borrow is seeing red. And I'm not talking Taylor Swift. But unfortunately for Borrow, this is not his battle to fight. Denji comes in and barely lives a Dragon Rush. It was close, but no cigar. He fires back an Ice Punch for the KO, and next is Lucario. I figure an extreme speed is coming, so I swap to Aaron and eat it before connecting with Flare Blitz, KOing Lucario and hurting Aaron for bad damage. And before anyone says anything about the risk of Flare Blitz, I don't remember a single time Aaron wasn't okay with hurting himself for his own means. Milotic is next, and because this thing is so tanky, it is easily the scariest Pokemon on her team. Power swaps in to get off a Toxic, and the stall battle begins. Right before Milotic faints, it's healed with a full restore, so we have to restart the process. Unfortunately for Power, she doesn't have the life left to see her adversary faint, so she goes down to a Surf. Armin comes out and nails a return to clean up the kill, sending out Togekiss. A Shockwave does huge damage, but we survive and finish it with 2 more returns. The final Pokemon of the run is Roserade, and not wanting to be outdone by Aaron, Armin also puts his life on the line with a Brave Bird, ending the battle and surviving in the process. And with that, our journey culminates. The first Brolocke is completed, as is Platinum. It was a crazy adventure, and I never expected it to pan out the way it did. But through it all, my Pokemon and I persevered and came out as champions. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. I plan to make much more content just like this, so stick around.